for another edition of the Daily Racing Form, a weekend preview right here on SportsGrid. I am Gino Buccola alongside Scott Shapiro. And Scott, we're always previewing the big horse races every weekend, but this weekend is a big weekend in the world of sports. We had the NFL kickoff last night on Thursday, and this weekend, Sunday, is the first weekend. Such a great time, too, because whether you're a gambler, a fantasy football player, or a fan, everybody's got a chance. Everybody's hopeful week one. Your season is not over yet. And Daily Racing Form has up to $5,000 in offers you can claim from Sportsbook. They give you different reviews. They let you know based on the state that you're in, which Sportsbook you can use, maybe how the way you play and what wagers you make. Scott, I know you and I have talked about many football games through the years.
I'm fired up, man. This is when our two majors, well, for me, the two things, mesh. We get the end of the summer meets into the NFL season. I couldn't be more fired up.
Oh, on this episode of the weekend preview, we're going to preview a big race over at Kentucky Downs. They have huge money up for grabs in a very short meet at Kentucky. Then we'll get into Del Mar for the final segments because it's actually closing weekend there. They have some good graded stakes action at Del Mar. But a lot of ground to cover, Scott, in this Kentucky Turf Cup. $2.5 million up for grabs, 1.5 miles on the turf course. Devon Propos is a horse that we start out with. Is now going to move into the Safi Joseph Jr. barn. This is a trainer who's very good with new acquisitions. I've been a personal fan of this horse. I've chased him a few times. He's quirky. He's a horse who's a big long shot here. I think he's probably his ceiling might be the bottom of the exotics in this particular spot, though.
Positive distance, not an issue for this horse. Inside draw, you mentioned Safi, good with horses he takes over. Only 3 works coming in. This is a pretty ambitious spot.
El Razine is the next one. The blinkers come off for the 2. It's a horse who doesn't have a whole lot of early speed. A positive, when you lure Irad Ortiz Jr., one of the top riders in the game, that always has to be looked at as a positive. I just don't know if this particular race sets up all that well for him. If he's a horse who needs a little speed to run at. So distance shouldn't be an issue, but he doesn't seem like he's coming into the race in the best form.
Yeah, the equipment change. First time the blinkers are coming off since his maiden breaking performance. So not necessarily what I want to see, but like you said, when you get Irad in an inside trip, third off the layoff, those are a lot of positives.
Tawny Port finished second most recently. That was just a week ago over this course at Kentucky, but it was like a non-threatening second. Scott, we can see really late in this race when a lot of the other horses are just getting really tired at about the 2-mile mark, he kind of passes, the second, third, fourth, and fifth horses here, and he gets up for second. I don't really know what to think of him because he is 0 for his last 13.
I don't want to speak for you. I'd get tired at the 2-mile mark as well,
yeah,
probably
absolutely.
long before that. But yeah, that's that mile. That was I know it was $1 million race, but an underwhelming field. This is a tougher group. I think this is a horse that's seen better days. He was an Ohio Derby winner at the age of 3.
Vote no. Got the lead early most recently. Not really a speed horse, though, Scott. A horse who's probably wanting to come from off the pace a little bit. He just seems like he's in a tough spot here. He looks a bit overmatched on paper.
Yeah, he's done well stretching out to new distances and further distances for Kelsey Danner. He has more speed than it might look on paper because he used to race in shorter races. But again, he'll probably be in that second tier. He will have an aggressive rider in Louis Saez aboard for the first time.
The next horse is probably as close to the horse to beat in this type of a race as possible. Maybe in that top 2 or 3. Mercante, really sharp, really honest. He's a multiple graded stakes winner. And most recently, he finished 4th in a race going a mile. He had missed a little bit of training coming into that race, Scott. And you and I talked about this yesterday. You pointed out, too, it was probably a little shorter than what's best for him as well.
Yeah, the mile distance, he didn't get right into the race. He wasn't far off the pace, but he's usually right up and on it. In fact, it looks like almost a situation where he could take the lead. Looks like that again in here, Gino. If he really did need the last race off that little bit of time off, he really does fit well in here. I guess the one question is, did maybe he run his best? And now coming back off the layoff might not be his best self.
Graham Sonata actually won this race last year, and he is a multiple graded stakes winner. He comes off a pretty good effort, too, when he was second in the Arlington Million. But if you're just watching that race back, he wins, and the runner to the outside, or he runs second, and Fort Washington wins. And Grand Sonata got a much better trip. He was able to save all the ground and move through the inside. Fort Washington actually had the tougher trip. He had to go wide, and he still was able to beat Grand Sonata.
Grand Sonata, last year's winner in this race, was 15-1 there. We won't even get half that price in here. But I guess if you're looking for positives, other than that he obviously fits on paper, he's never been worse than second in 2 starts over this surface.
Utah Beach is a multiple graded stakes winner. He has a couple races on speed figures that would actually fit with the group like this, Scott, but it does feel like this is probably tougher than any group that he's beat so far. So I kind of go back and forth with him.
Yeah, he's an honest horse and had a real good spring this year with a couple of big wins in Kentucky at the 1.5 mile distance. His last race off the layoff was a grade 1, the Sword Dancer, so better competition there. He was 3 wide into the first turn there. I think he makes sense underneath as he gets a good fit in Joel Rosario, very good over this course.
Yeah, and then we move to the outside 4. Honestly, any of these really wouldn't shock me that much. Old Crazy Bones coming off a pretty good runner-up effort right behind Anglophile. So those two, the 8 and the 9, both come out of the same race. They ran second and third. Anglophile made an early move and opened up a little bit, ends up getting nailed, but still ran pretty well. And Old Crazy Bone had a different kind of trip, was full of run, was kind of looking for room, and came flying late and just missed. I can understand taking positives from either of those horses, Scott, coming into this race. Old Crazy Bone will probably be a little bit more of a price in here. Let's start with him.
Yeah, Old Crazy Bone, I think, might be a little closer to the pace than he was in the last race. Was 3 wide in that first turn there. He had a favorable flow, but no other real favorable situations, if you will, in that race for him. Mike Maker, second off the claim. He is tough when he spends 6 figures or such for these types of horses and moves them into these 1.5 mile races.
You know, initially I kind of looked at Anglophile and I was dismissing some of the overall form. And then a very sharp handicapper that I know yesterday I was speaking with liked Anglophile a little bit. So I took a second look at Anglophile. And Scott, honestly, when you go through race by race, that form is pretty good. And that sharp handicapper I was talking about was you, my friend. You like this horse a little bit.
I do. I think, I'm going to end up picking him on top, as we'll see in a couple of minutes. That might be a bit of a reach since he hasn't won many races of late, but I think it's a race where there's horses to fade that are going to take money and key around this horse in the exotics and use them on top. Of course, Declan Cannon, I think, is the one that fits him best, even though he might not be as big of a name.
We move to the number 10, Corruption. He's a very important horse in this race because win or lose, he looks like one of the major speed horses in here, Scott. And I think intent-wise, they will probably put him on the lead because that's just where he's done his best work. The race we're watching right here is a really easy win for him. I mean, he's supposed to do this. This is a field that he's much better than. When you watch him face graded stakes company, he's faced some tough horses. He was 4th in the Manhattan, and that race has come back strong. He's been in good form. He's won 5 of his last 7. I think the race probably goes through him up front early on, and we'll see how far he can go if he gets pushed. I think that'll kind of determine where he ultimately finishes here.
I upgraded this horse after speaking with you yesterday. I think if you look at the pace projector, it might have him sitting second. I think he's going to be the one on the lead coming in the race in really good form, even though he was in for just $35K, available for sale in January.
We move to the 11, Fort Washington, who is a 6-year-old who's now just getting better. Scott, you and I were talking about how as we're getting older, we're not getting better, but Fort Washington certainly is getting better. He comes off of like a career best race when you're looking at some of his speed figures, and he wins the Arlington Million for a trainer who is a very patient trainer. He lets his horses to dictate when they're feeling well, when they're at their best. And so I love seeing Fort Washington in this form. He might be a play against on the win end in here to me, Scott, though, because he's really not proven going this distance. He's been best going shorter, and he doesn't have a whole lot of early speed. So he sort of needs things to set up for him.
Right. I'm worried about the setup not being there for him. He hasn't won in either of his 2 starts over this course, which is definitely important. It's a unique configuration. Love the horse, but I don't love him today or Saturday.
We move to selections, Scott. You and I are both looking for a little bit of value, but I think we both felt like Mercante was probably one of the real solid horses that's going to show up and run well. So for me, 10, 8, 5, 11. And for Scott, throwing some value with Anglophile on top. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're going to head over to Del Mar, a couple graded stakes races where the turf meets the surf.
I was looking at through my phone at first. I'm like, why is there such a delay? And why are we getting pitch hitters right away? Oh, the pitcher got thrown out for some reason. Maybe he hurt himself. But no, turning out and seeing a brawl was absolutely hilarious to let that one play out. Just the way it is sometimes in baseball. We don't get a lot of good fights and a lot of good brawls in anger, specifically from two teams that aren't going to the playoffs. So good on them for showing that moxie last time. But it's good to see a little bit of a brawl and a little bit of that passion here.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You're looking for JJ. You and I already discussed here. Addison's gone for a couple of games here. They don't really have a number 3. Thielen, fine. You do have a nice tight end here. The running game could be solid here. Like I said, I don't think he'll have the least productive season of his career. If the question was how it should have been with the injuries, I might have said yes, because then it would be 88, 1,407. So then I might have said yes.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
No better place to be than SportsGrid. College football today, right here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe, Lisi, Donnie, right side for the entire season, Joe, on Saturday. This is your place. This is your place to be, Joe.
I love it. I tell you. And it's flying. Show's flying. We're on an hour already. I can't wait. We're licking our chops for these Rat Pack games. And it's a great slate.
Look at you on the screen right now.
Look like a little rat.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
The reason why I feel like Jared Goff doesn't really enter these MVP conversations. Jared Goff last year was on the team with the best record in football, threw for 4,700 yards, 37 touchdowns, and Tom was never in the race. He was never in the race because we know he's not that guy.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Out to the West Coast to talk about some Del Mar. But before we do, we want to let all of you know about a new daily racing form product that's called DRF Newbie. And I think for a lot of the SportsGrid fans that are sports bettors and maybe not the most hardcore horse racing bettors, maybe you play once a week or on the big days, you might really enjoy this. And it's something you should pass around to your friends who may have a maybe tough time handicapping horse races, because Scott, you open up the form sometimes and it's a lot. If you don't know the races and the past performances, what Newbie does on your mobile, on your phone, and if you go to newbie.drf.com, you can check it out, puts things very visual for you. Lots of graphs, lots of spotlights, some rating numbers that just shows you who might have the early speed, who might have the late speed, which of the trainers or which of the jockeys are doing the best. Check it out. DRF Newbie, newbie.drf.com. Heading over to Del Mar for the John C. Mabee, race number 9 on Saturday, September the 6th, mile and an eighth on the turf course. Scott, we have 4 of these horses that come out of the same race, the Yellow Ribbon. It was a prep race for this. Then you also have 4 Phil D'Amato runners. 3 of those were in the Yellow Ribbon. We actually start out with Mahina, who had a little bit of a sneaky kind of traffic. I don't know if she was going to win. She seems like she runs similar races all the time. She's a horse who needs some pace to run at. She's going to sit back. She's going to launch one late run. She's multiple graded stakes placed, but she hasn't really won any of these big ones.
No, and she has not even hit the board in, in 6 starts in Del Mar. That's funny. I had the very similar thing written down. Runs a very similar race every time, kind of in that mid-80s buyers. I don't think it's going to be good enough in here to do much. Maybe hit the board, like you said.
Public Assembly is still lightly raced with some upside, is a grade 3 winner. She finished second in the Yellow Ribbon. And really, when you look at her recent form, the only bad race on the page is the Gamely, when Be Your Best probably outclassed that field. Here's Public Assembly in the Yellow Ribbon. She was in the 2 paths. She was in between horses early. She ends up winning a battle here for second and for some of the minor awards. She wasn't going to win. She was chasing Lone Speed, but she's solid in here, Scott. The problem is, there's a lot of horses that kind of look similar on paper, or like they're not separated by all that much. And then there's 1 or 2 new faces that look like they may be the standouts in this race. I have no problem with Public Assembly. I'll probably have towards the bottom of exotics, but I need a little value, I think, to play her in here.
Well, the problem is much like it was last time. You mentioned Lone Speed, the favorite, taking them all the way in the Yellow Ribbon. There's not a lot of speed in here at all.
Yep.
I mean, it's going to be a very similar race shape, and I'm not sure fifth start as a 4-year-old. She's been in the Chad Brown barn before if she has that move forward in her.
Yeah, and she's not fast. In her last 2 races, she's lost to horses who have been on the lead and lone speed. Mission of Joy is a multiple graded stakes winner. This horse I've tried to get to a couple times recently, Scott, because she has some back class, but she is just 1 for her last 13. Can she get back to some of those races from, the first half of 2024 when she was really in good form?
I don't think she can would be my answer. I was a
Yeah.
big fan of this filly at the time. Saw her race at Churchill when I was there once, and she was just better. I mean, she was forward a little more last time than I think she wants to be. We talked about the race shape. You can maybe make that case for her, but it's going to be a similar race shape today or in this race.
She's a little bit wide, but I couldn't find as many excuses. Maduro just looks really well spotted in here, Scott. When you're looking at a group of horses that are all kind of similar and maybe not that exciting and they don't really jump off the page to bet, Maduro's form overall is just good. She's never been worse than third. She's multiple grade 1 place. She's a grade 3 winner. And the real key, she had been off and she made her first start as a 4-year-old and it was really good. It was basically her best career start. You feel like she can step forward off of that. She's got some versatility. There's just so many things to like about her. And in a field where a lot of the other horses are just kind of okay.
Yeah, she struggled to put races together in her career too, and to an extent. Nice to see that she was able to kind of come right back off of what was probably a prep for this spot in the Oceanitis, which is a restricted special weight, or not a special weight, but a restricted stake. She should be forward to an extent in this field, and she likes this turf course. Not a lot to hate.
Yeah, likes Del Mar, proven at 1.125 miles. We move to Hopeful. She wins in her first start in the U.S. back in June. Then in July, she had a brutal trip. Now, you could take two things, right? Tough trip doesn't mean she's going to win this race, but it was kind of a no-chance trip. She was like wide and in between horses and just put a line right through it. I think it says something that the connections want to come into this spot. Mark Glatt, who's been kind of raising his game to one of the top trainers in Southern California the last few years. What do you think about Hopeful in this spot?
You could definitely make an excuse for her last, but you got to wonder about the quality of the field she faced. It was like a 6-horse blanket finish, basically. And
Yep.
with Baltic Fire, who we'll get to shortly, that was 57-1 and really had nothing on form to put to show you that she was capable of really winning that race. So with Hopeful, to me, that trip might get her over a bet, but she makes a little sense.
Yeah, I kind of thought she could maybe hit the board here, but would need to see more to get a win from her. Kentucky Gal on paper looks like one of a few horses that might be forwardly placed in here, at least intentions with Edwin Maldonado aboard, who's a speed rider, and with the blinkers aboard, with Phil D'Amato having 4. I feel like he's got to pick one of his charge that's going to want to go towards the front end, and maybe it's this one, Scott.
Why wouldn't he want to go with this Churchill filly? There's not a lot of speed at all in here. She's been not able to make a lone lead going further distances, which normally wouldn't be sharp enough to get you to the front. But with the blinkers on, 3 other horses in Maldonado, I think she's on the lead. Probably not good enough to win, but she can hang around.
Give me another. Came from South Africa, was undefeated, 7 for 7 when coming into the U.S. Has not won, but has finished second 3 times in 4 graded stakes races here. This is a pretty solid effort. I think it would bind with the big turf course in the long stretch. She may got a little lost out here on the front end, Scott. Feels like a very good spot for Graham Motion to ship her in to Del Mar this weekend for a graded stakes.
Yeah, I remember her coming in for her first start at Tampa. She's run really good races, but the problem is she won all of her races in South Africa and none here. So I don't know where that puts her here in this spot. She's going to take quite a bit of money, I think.
Baltic Fire was that long shot winner at 50-1, Scott. I got to make her prove it this time, back to back.
Absolutely agree with you. That feels like last time was the time.
Hang the Moon is a multiple graded stakes winner. Had to shake off the rust off an 8-month layoff, but I would have liked to see a little bit more from her because I didn't think it was that strong of a field. I don't really know the quality of the horses she was beating either in those graded stakes.
I agree. I think she might get a forward somewhat trip from that outside post, but another one that I don't think is quite good enough.
Well, Scott, in this race, you and I are going to go a little formful. On paper, it just looks like a great race for Maduro. Second start back, facing a lot of horses who aren't really in the best form. We're both going to put Maduro on top. In fact, we have the same 4 horses, just in a slightly different order. So we'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll take a look at the Del Mar Debutante and preview that grade 1 on Saturday.
Want to play roulette? Here's a tip. European roulette has a lower house edge than American style. The lower the house edge, the better shot you have at winning. Most online casinos offer European roulette. So, if I were you, I'd get spinning. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Like it or not, 18-year-olds dropped with a whole heck of a lot of money in there. Boy, I tell you, it changes people, Donnie, and it's a new reality that we better get used to in college football, because look at the kid from UCLA, former Tennessee quarterback, making millions of dollars. You really think he cares? They got absolutely embarrassed and trounced.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
When is Caitlin Clark coming back? Is it in this regular season? Is it going to be to start the postseason? Is it not at all? It's one of the most fascinating things of this WNBA season that we aren't talking about with regularity because it's just been so long. I know it may not feel it, but Caitlin Clark's last game was the 15th of July.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
The Dallas Cowboys losing that pass rush, losing another big impact player on the defensive side, all this does is make me like Dak Prescott more and CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens more, because what we talked about all offseason, right, Matt, which is, hey, when Dak is healthy, he is a top 5 fantasy quarterback, and the defense we think is okay, but we think they're going to be in a lot of shootouts. Now I definitely think there's going to be a lot more shootouts.
Fantasy sports today, only on SportsGrid.
On Saturday at Delamar is the Grade 1 Delamar Debutante. Scott, what is always exciting about these races is getting to see horses that are future stars of the sport. These are for the 2-year-old fillies and horses that you may be seeing run in the Kentucky Oaks next year. And most of the time in Southern California, these races with young horses are dominated by Bob Baffert, and that is the case again in here. Baffert has won this race 11 times. He has 3 really live contenders with Explora, with Amica, and with Bottle of Rouge. So those 3 will be major players. And what makes it tough sometimes for us as handicappers and gamblers, Scott, a lot of the Bob Baffert runners are fast horses. They're talented horses. They're bred well. They get out of the gate quickly. So when you have a race where there's 2 or 3 of them and they've shown speed, sometimes it's hard figuring out which of the ones is going to get the lead, because they're probably not all going to line up against each other in battle for the same trainer.
Right. I mean, I think some people overthink it at times, think that there's a plan, but especially with very young horses. But there has been times where it definitely feels like there's intent from some and not the other. In this field, I would think they all want to get out of the gate well as 2-year-olds lightly raced.
It's tougher with these young horses to do that, right? Because you want to play these. You don't necessarily play games. You want to be teaching these horses the right way to run early on when they're so lightly raced. Explora was very good. Scott earned a big figure, got to the lead, and just cruised in that debut. What do you think about her in here?
Well, it tells me a lot that Baffert's willing to bring her back on 3 weeks rest, August 17th, right? I mean, he does not somebody to rush them back in here. Modest female family, from what I could find, $350K, and ran like it. Took advantage of an inside draw and was easily best.
And you feel like Juan Hernandez probably could have had his choice of the Bafferts, because he was aboard all 3 of them winning, and he ends up on this filly down on the inside. But Hamika is actually the most proven of anyone in this field, Scott. She's a graded stakes winner. She's won twice, and she has shown us she can sit off a little bit and pass horses if need be. It's always something that's important with these younger horses, just knowing that they can be behind horses and overcome that if they have to.
She's the clear one to beat. $900,000 purchase. We're recording this before the morning line is out, but she is going to be hammered, I would assume. The one thing to note, you talked about how many times Bob wins this race. It's normally or recently has not been with the same filly he's won the Sorrento with. If he's won both, Executive Privilege is the last in 2012. It might make me look foolish, but I think she's worth taking a swing against at her likely price.
I agree. We moved to Forliness, who was super impressive, came from 10 plus lengths out of it, but that was against a much softer group of horses, would have to step up huge in this race to compete.
$32,000 maiden claimer into a grade 1 is ambitious. Maybe you can make the case that she just sits back and passes half the field or something, but came through the rail last time with a big setup against way lesser at 8-1. Tough one.
The 4 Grandma Mary comes out of the very same race with Bourbon and Ginger, the number 7 in here. I thought they both ran pretty well. Bourbon and Ginger was involved in the pace a little earlier on, was battling, and then the horse that you see kind of angling out, that's Grandma Mary. Grandma Mary looks a little bit green and will add the blinkers. I think that will help for her. But I could take either one of these horses and take some positives coming out of that race, Scott. The 4 Grandma Mary, what I do like also, she showed she can sit behind horses and kind of loom up. She might get a setup in here.
Yeah, she adds the blinkers, so we'll see if that's the plan or not. She had a huge gallop out in that race. This is a full sister. This is the 3rd time the Ruiz family or Ruiz Racing has kind of bred the same filly. Neither of them have been quite where this one will have to be competitive here.
Bottle of Rouge had a good start most recently and was able to just crush and win by 6. And what's nice is that she won at 6.5 furlongs, so she's actually has a victory going farther than anybody in this field has, Scott.
She's bred to want to go even further. She's bred to want to be 2 turns, but I would still say based on the money she took at Santa Anita, maybe that's a bad read that she's considered the lesser of the Baffert in this spot. But that's been a faulty way of going about things in the past. We've heard the other Baffert has won this race a lot.
We have Ala Wally for Mark Glatt, who won first time out and did it very professionally, sat nicely, moved, didn't get the big kind of speed figures that some of the others have in here, more workmanlike, but I don't really have anything to knock. It's just that this is a tough group.
Well, they ran early in the meet and they clearly were pointing for this spot, was able to relax. Those are the positives for this one.
Bourbon and Ginger rounds things out. She's bred to want to go even longer. She's a half to a grade 2 winner named Life Talk, who won at 1 1/8, Scott. I thought her debut was very good. She sat just off and she was able to hold off that late challenge we saw. You like her a little bit in here.
I do. Mandela, very good when he wins with 2-year-olds first out of the box. Tamara and Copian, a couple of the other recent ones.
So you can take a look at our selections, and hopefully we lead you in the right direction. You're going to want to take those winnings and parlay them right on over to Sunday NFL. Make sure to claim all those sportsbook bonuses, up to $5,000 you can claim when you check out the sports betting section at drf.com. Good luck this weekend.
Guess what, golfers? Vegas isn't just casinos and pool parties. In fact, there are 50 golf courses within a 15-mile radius of the Strip, all boasting beautiful desert oasis landscapes. So, if you're looking for a break from the action, consider hitting the links. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Donnie, the season is 6 months. 5 if you check out in September. You're gonna have a bad month. The Yankees had a horrible month, that is true. But beyond that, their regular season looks okay. They're gonna win their 90 games or maybe a little bit more and get to the postseason. What is everybody freaking out about?
Everybody freaks out. It's the Yankee tax and the Yankee fan tax as well, where every single season you enter into the equation going like, it's championship or bust.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Remember these names: AZ Fudd, Olivia Miles, Lauren Betts. Depending on who wins that lottery, that's going to depend on who goes what. If Washington wins, it's Fudd. She's from the area. If Dallas wins, they're going to bring Fudd to play with, obviously, Paige. If Minnesota wins, I think they go Miles with the point. If Seattle wins, they go with Miles, and the same thing with Chicago.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
I don't like it. Does he think he's playing on the opening kickoff? Does he want to get a handoff at that point?
I mean, he's involved in the program. Here's the problem with James Franklin.
Why do coaches even run out with the football team? Like, Andy Reid doesn't run out with the Chiefs.
Yeah, but it's the NFL. This is college kids.
They're college basketball. Do those
they're
guys
like a
run out
father figure. Well, they used to be like a father figuring. Now the kids are making more than the coach.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.